All right, Roger Hummake is VP of Analytics for Texas Mutual Insurance in Austin, Texas. Roger brings 20 years of data and advanced analytics experience from financial services, telecom, and tech industries. At Texas Mutual, Roger is leading development of a new cloud data platform and implementation of AI machine learning opportunities throughout the enterprise, including claims, underwriting, and fraud prevention. Now, we've had a couple of our most senior architects working with you down there. And one of the comments that was made is the data warehouse that you have built in 4 months is the best they've ever seen. So high praise for you and your team. It's been such a pleasure working with you, but thank you so much for being willing to share today.
Yeah, of course. And we do have a great team, and appreciate Technion for being a great partner. When they asked me to speak here, I jumped at it. We started out as a semi-state agency, and they spun us off in 2001. And we cover about 43% of workers in Texas. And that's about 1.5 million employees across 70,000 businesses. Most of you probably work in the U.S. We didn't always have a history of having workers' comp insurance available to us. Before 1913, if you got hurt at work, you were just out of luck. You were on your own, and your employer didn't have to do anything about that. In 1913, the government actually created some laws that allowed you to sue your employer. And just like today, whenever a law is made, it gets challenged, and the Supreme Court actually had to confirm that in 1917. And that was really the beginning of workers' comp in the U.S. And in Texas, we created a state board that when you would sue your employer, that board would listen to your case. And that was how it worked the last 75 years. As you can imagine, as we got into the 80s and people became more litigious and things, that system just became outdated and it didn't work anymore. And it really wasn't a great relationship. That if you had to get injured, you had to create this adversarial relationship with your employer where you sued them and they defended themselves and all the legal costs involved with that. So in Texas, they tried to solve that by creating a new laws that would make it easier to get workers' comp insurance. But the result of that was that rates skyrocketed. Most of the insurance carriers were pulling out of the state, and employers couldn't actually get insurance anymore. So basically, in 1991, they changed the laws a little bit, and they created Texas Mutual as a way for the state to provide an insurer of last resort. So we will insure anyone in Texas for any kind of business. And that means if you start a dynamite juggling group and you can get employees to work for you, we will cover you, or any other kind of crazy thing. And we cover some pretty amazing stuff, and it's stuff that no other insurance will take. But that's why we exist, and it's why we're able to serve the state of Texas so well, and why we have so much of the market share. It's also allowed us to build a lot of history, relationships with the different doctors and different providers of healthcare within the state of Texas. And it's so good that we're able to leverage this data, this really rich data that we have, having 43% of the market share, that we know when someone gets a certain type of injury in certain areas in Texas, who the best provider and treatment plan in that area is, and which specialists we might want to send people to. And so we've been able to leverage the power of data over the last 25 years since our creation to be able to provide better outcomes for injured workers. And that's really important to us, to our mission, and to really the success of the company. And because of that, we're a mutual company. We're able to give back a third of the premiums and policies that we collect every year back to our policyholders. And so it makes it a lot more cost effective for people to get insurance. And workers' comp insurance, if you don't know, is the most expensive insurance businesses have. It's more expensive than general liability and auto for most businesses. It's really your biggest risk. Because in the state of Texas and many other states, if a worker gets injured, that employer is responsible for those injuries for the rest of that employee's life. So you can imagine if someone gets in a car accident, just driving stuff, or they're picking up a box of paper and they hurt their back, they could have injuries and claims related to that for 60 years. And it could wipe out a small business if you were on your own there. So having insurance here is really important. And Texas Mutual takes it really seriously that we want to get the absolute best care for customers and for injured workers because all of our interests are aligned. we're going to have to take care of you the rest of your life. We want you to do the best. And the way that we've been able to achieve that is strong relationships with providers and using data to actually verify and build even better relationships and treatment plans for people. That's what's made us successful. And our first steps into the data space were in the early 2000s, where we had a bunch of innovative people in finance. And back then, I think most companies, anything that had sort of a number on it and an analytical kind of purpose, that belonged to finance. So our finance team was innovative, and they created some of our first BI reports. They were in Excel. They were based on Access databases. But they did the job really well, and they helped the company grow and become really successful. But over time, it became unmanageable because it has all the problems that you can imagine when you have finance people trying to maintain a whole BI environment on their own, that it quickly grew out of hand. There were data inconsistencies. They couldn't produce do the technical things to scale this up the way that the company demanded. So that led to a lot of pain. So we had all those pain points around quality, inconsistency, silos. So the solution was, let's hand it over to IT, and they're going to make it more stabilized. They'll be able to run the technology. They'll be able to automate all this stuff. So we moved it into our DB2, IBM, iSeries mainframe environment, set up some other SQL servers over the years. We moved and used SAP Business Objects for data services to do the ETL, as well as Business Objects to upgrade our Crystal reports at the time. And that made it more standardized, productionalized. We were able to get the data produced every day. They were able to manage the growth of the data over the years. But it had a challenge that our IT people didn't really understand the meaning of the data. They understood how to produce it, and they designed ways to produce certain specifications really well, but they weren't able to innovate on it. And over time, the way that they designed and built this system made it really hard to enhance it, and made it hard for the business to really become agile and respond to new changes or new challenges, to the point that we really haven't evolved our reporting and our business value much beyond what we had 10 years ago when it was done in Excel with different finance people. That actually has led to a whole bunch of challenges, including what we realize today around data quality, because the data is degraded over time. We're not getting out very timely. The processes that were built actually have reached the point where they just don't scale in our current technologies anymore. We can't produce it reliably. We now have different silos of data because where IT wasn't able to step up and respond to changes, other people in the business have started creating their own solutions to fill in the gap, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So basically, it's all the classic problems that you see, which is really just a lot more pain, to the point today that we're like on fire, that we need to do something drastically different. And that's why the organization has created a CDO organization, and that's what I'm part of. I work for the CDO, and my job is responsible for the data engineering, the advanced analytics, and some of the other business operations process of the data warehouse and things. And I have a counterpart that's in charge of data governance. And this organization was created to sit between the business and IT. So we see the value of having business people run the analytics and BI tools because they're very focused on actually solving business problems. They understand what challenges the business operations teams have, whether that's marketing or sales or insurance company. For us, it's underwriting, claims, and business people understand, and they see opportunities. If I just had this data and I knew this thing, I could make a better decision here. So we're trying to drive that business value and enable those people with as much analytics as possible. And to do that, we need an organization that understands the meaning of the data, that works really closely with the business, but also has the technical skills that would traditionally be in IT, And so that's the CDO organization that we're creating, and it sits between the business units and IT. We do not roll up to IT, and I think that's very important for our success. We report directly to the CEO. And to have that kind of seat and to have that kind of voice has allowed us to step out of the things that hold IT back from being able to really successfully run an analytics practice. Because if it was up to them, they would run it like a software development tool, where you'd have these heavy-handed quality and control processes that just take a long time to get through. We need those things from a data perspective too, and I'm not really here to talk about data quality and governance and things, but those are super important to us, but they work differently than how you would do data quality when you're rolling out an application that you spent 3 months or whatever developing. We need to be able to have automated tools that allow us to quickly deploy in a CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development process that allows us to deploy today. If we see a problem with the data warehouse today, I need to be able to have someone fix it in QA, promote it all the way to dev and prod in under an hour. And that's the kind of capabilities that we can build when we're focused on the business value, as opposed to the processes and things that you would necessarily do to run IT. So I think it's really important to have a CDO organization if we're going to really realize the value of the data that's available to us at Texas Mutual and probably to almost every company. And I strongly feel that having that organization be independent, business focused, but have a strong relationship with IT and some of the IT-like skills around technical database movements and that kind of stuff is what's going to allow us to be successful. Everyone believes data is a strategic imperative. If you ask any leader, any company, I think everyone would agree with the statement I have here that companies that don't master data and analytics will be replaced by those that do over the next whatever years. Data is just such an important commodity, but people believing this statement doesn't drive action. It's too big. It's like global warming. People believe it, but how do you take direct actions on it? When we talk to our business leaders, it's really about telling them what's in it for them. We need buy-in from the business to get the resources and support to be able to effectively roll out an analytics strategy. And that means I need them really partnering with us to provide the ideas, to provide resources, to help be data stewards, to provide insights on what's possible, to help us understand the business problems. And in return, my group and our CDO organization is really focused on solving those particular business problems, aligning our deliverables to the business strategy that makes sense to them, and really driving business outcomes to make them successful. If you think about a business unit leader, they're typically optimistic people that are trying to, build something big and cool. And if we can come in and position the CDO and the data organization as being an enabler for them, they're going to be our champions. And so that's what we've done. We're doing it now with various Tableau and Data Robot and Alteryx applications. And in the next month, I said, we're going to do a big launch of a whole new data warehouse built on Snowflake in the cloud. It's going to provide our leaders with new insights and data earlier in the day, near real time in some cases, that they've never had access to before, to allow them to solve the specific problems that they've come to us and said would be really valuable if they could do. Our data strategy is built on these principles here. Number one being business value. I think any data strategy has to be aligned to that business value focus of driving real business outcomes. It's not about the technology. It's not about playing with cool toys, even though we all love that, and I love that. And I really like getting my hands on Snowflake and AWS and all these other cool tools that we can do. Data Robot was probably one of the funnest things we've ever done. But it's only makes sense because we're able to deliver things to the business that make sense to them. Secondly, it's all about people. So building the right team, building the right relationships. I'll show you how we're kind of organized from a centralized, decentralized in a second. Then it's about the architecture, having an actionable business plan that you can explain to people, here's what we're going to do, here are the steps we're going to take over the next few years to improve add new capabilities, change our technology, and then technology and governance. So all these are the components of successful data strategy. I don't have time to get into all of those today, but it's going to be unique for your business. It's unique for ours. This is what we thought about when we put together our data strategy. First, we started with the strategy and aligned it, or started with the business strategy. So a data strategy can't be independent of the business strategy. You can't just go off on our own and design what the data strategy should look like. It's got to absolutely have buy-in from the top of your organization if we want to get the resources and support to actually make it successful. Because it's a long journey, especially if you're in the place where we are, where we really needed to take ourselves out of mainframe and really old ETL processes and leapfrog generations of technology into the future. It's going to take us a couple, 3 years just to replace those capabilities as well as add some other things around the edges. As we all know, this is a fast-changing world, and we're going to have to keep evolving, which means we're going to keep needing to keep up with new technologies. We might need to bring in new skill sets, all kinds of things over time. And to go on a journey like that, we need a lot of support. So number two, we really have to communicate how the business can leverage data to reach their goals. Again, this is about driving the buy-in, but also aligning the projects so that we're delivering stuff consistently over time that the business values, so they'll want to keep on this journey and keep investing with us. We're focused on democratizing data. When I was at Fidelity Investments several years ago, there was a challenge where our suppliers were dividing and conquering the organization, meaning they would have a relationship with different business units and they were getting all kinds of different prices from that. We weren't able to leverage the size of our organization to get better deals. So they asked me to come in and build an analytics tool that would allow the whole organization to see where all the vendor spend and everything was. And it was really powerful, and we started to see some really tangible benefits in our contract negotiations. And just the visibility it gave to leaders in different business units was powerful. Until one business leader saw it. Unfortunately, it was the one that was 3 levels above my organization, and the reaction was fear that we made it too easy for people to see the data, and we need to protect the data, and they limited actually the access to this tool, which limited the benefit of it. That was a long time ago. I think most organizations evolved and thinking's evolved, but we have to really unlock our data and go from a place of trust where we're allowing people to get access to it first and only restricting when we have to. Number 4, our strategy is about just identifying the skills gaps, and that's both within the data technology team as well as the organization as a whole to be able to understand data, how to ask the questions, how to read charts, how to really use this to our maximum advantage. And number 5 is setting up the priorities and the roadmap so we can effectively communicate with people and align what we're going to be accomplishing. We've chosen the focus to have we want to decentralize as much as possible. So everywhere we can put power into the business units. So we're enabling the analysts to sit in the business units, to have all the access to the data. Our data stewards sit there, all of the users of our dashboards. And we're only centralizing in the CDO office the functions that are more technical in nature and that make the most sense for us to efficiently do in a centralized place. That's data engineering, it's our data warehouse operations, it's our data governance team, it's our data platform, people that are just running the technologies underneath, as well as the people that help with the tools and the training, such as Tableau and Data Robot and Alteryx. But it's for the benefit of our analysts and for our business unit users. But as much of the actual dashboard creation and ideas and the development of the end use cases, the tangible stuff, we're giving the business the power and the teams and the training and enablement to be able to do those things. That's our focus. I'm going to we're mostly out of time here, so I'm going to cut it real quick. I mean, we're using the whole stack that Technion has recommended. A lot of those things we came to on our own. We knew we wanted to use Tableau, Snowflake, Data Robot, Alteryx. Those were things we already had. But we've found a really great relationship with Technion. They blew us away with their presentation. We actually had a project last year to come up with our data strategy using one of the big four consultants. And they spent 3 months with us and gave us a generic plan that really could have applied to any company and didn't take into account our uniqueness. Technion came in on their first sales presentation, and they gave us more value in an afternoon than we got out of that 3 months. They came in and they actually read where we're at, what our needs were, and offered us a real solution. So I thank Technion for the opportunity to speak here and for the partnership that we've had. They've allowed us to quickly, since May of this year, in just 6 months, completely launch a whole new data platform in the cloud, using AWS, using HPR to stream our data, using Snowflake as a backbone. And we've launched thousands of automated tools with full testing end-to-end from the beginning using this validator product that Technion has, which is really an unspoken hidden gem that's allowed us to ensure quality throughout all of this. So I'm really excited about where we're going. I'm excited about the partnership with Technion. And I'm just excited about data in general. So thank you for your time.
You know, Roger, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you for the kind words. And you know, I can only imagine the change management involved in creating an organization between business and IT, and how IT first responded. But we're going to have to save that question for the panel.
Okay.
So thank you so very much.